For the third time in 2 years, Michael watched a less qualified colleague get the promotion he deserved. This time, he didn't even bother to ask why. He just nodded, smiled, and went back to his desk. The email arrived on a Tuesday morning at 9:47 a.m., settling into Michael Thompson's inbox like a familiar weight. The subject line read, "Regional Sales Manager Position, Decision Update." Michael stared at it for a full minute before clicking open, already knowing what he would find inside. "We are pleased to announce that Brad Peterson has been selected for the Regional Sales Manager position, effective immediately. Please join us in congratulating Brad on his new role." Michael closed his laptop slowly and leaned back in his ergonomic office chair, the same chair he had occupied for the past 8 years at Sterling Financial Solutions. Around him, the open office buzzed with morning conversations, coffee brewing, and keyboards clicking. Normal sounds of a normal Tuesday that had just become anything but normal for Michael. This was the third promotion he had been passed over for in 2 years. Each time he had been told he was a strong candidate and to keep up the excellent work. Each time the position had gone to someone younger, whiter, and invariably less qualified than him. Brad Peterson was 28 years old and had been with Sterling Financial Solutions for exactly 18 months. His sales numbers were respectable but not exceptional. His client relationships were adequate but not deep. His industry knowledge was surface level at best. But Brad had something Michael apparently lacked, though no one would ever name it directly. Michael was 42, had been with the company for 8 years, and had consistently been one of the top 3 performers in the sales division every single quarter. His client retention rate was the highest in the office. He had brought in more new business in the past 2 years than any other sales representative, including Brad. He had completed every professional development course the company offered, earned his advanced certification in financial planning, and regularly mentored new hires. None of it seemed to matter. The first time this had happened 18 months ago, Michael had been optimistic about the feedback session. He had sat in Director of Sales Patricia Coleman's office, notepad ready, genuinely believing that understanding his weaknesses would help him secure the next opportunity. "Michael, you're an incredible asset to this team," Patricia had said, her voice carefully modulated. "Your performance speaks for itself. Sometimes these decisions come down to factors that are hard to quantify." "Such as?" Michael had asked, pen poised over his notepad. Patricia had shifted uncomfortably in her chair, her eyes avoiding direct contact. "Leadership presence, cultural fit, communication style. These things can be subjective." Michael had left that meeting with a comprehensive list of action items. Take a public speaking course, work on executive presence, continue building relationships across departments, and consider pursuing an MBA. He had done all of these things diligently, spending his own money on professional development courses and investing countless hours in networking events and cross-departmental projects. The second time, 6 months ago, the position had gone to Jennifer Walsh, a perfectly competent colleague who had joined the company 3 months after Michael, but somehow possessed the fresh perspective and innovative thinking that the role required. Michael had requested another feedback session, hoping for more specific guidance. This time, Patricia had been even more vague. "Michael, honestly, you're ready for this level of responsibility. Your leadership skills have really developed. Sometimes timing just isn't right. Keep doing what you're doing." But what was he doing wrong? Michael had spent weeks analyzing every interaction, every presentation, every client meeting. He had asked trusted colleagues for honest feedback. He had even hired an executive coach with his own money, working with her for 3 months to refine his leadership style and communication skills. Now, sitting at his desk as the third opportunity slipped away, Michael felt something different than disappointment or frustration. He felt tired. Not physically tired, though the stress had certainly affected his sleep patterns and appetite. He felt tired in his soul, tired of hoping, tired of believing that the next time would be different. Across the office, he could see Brad Peterson emerging from Patricia Coleman's office, his face flushed with excitement and disbelief. Brad was shaking hands with Patricia, both of them beaming with the kind of genuine happiness that comes from achieving something significant. Michael watched as Brad walked toward his desk, stopping to accept congratulations from several colleagues along the way. Michael forced his expression into neutral territory, a skill he had perfected over years of professional disappointments. He had learned to manage his face, to ensure that his disappointment never showed in professional settings. It was a survival mechanism that many of his white colleagues never had to develop, but one that had become second nature to him. "Hey, Michael." Brad's voice was bright with new promotion energy as he approached Michael's desk. "I wanted to tell you personally before the announcement went out. I got the regional manager position." Michael looked up from his computer screen and manufactured a smile that felt like putting on an uncomfortable suit. "Congratulations, Brad. That's fantastic news." "Thanks, man. I know you were interested in it too. Patricia mentioned you're always a strong candidate for these roles." Always a strong candidate, never the chosen candidate. The phrase had become a kind of corporate consolation prize, meaningless words designed to soften the blow of rejection. "I appreciate that," Michael replied evenly, his voice betraying none of the complex emotions churning beneath the surface. "You'll do great in the role." Brad lingered for a moment, perhaps expecting more enthusiasm or maybe sensing the undercurrent of Michael's carefully controlled response. "Well, I should probably start making some calls. Thanks for being so supportive." Michael nodded and returned his attention to his computer screen, pulling up a client proposal he had been working on for the past week. Around him, he could hear other colleagues congratulating Brad, asking about his plans for the new role, expressing excitement about working under his leadership. Michael had heard these conversations before, about other people, for other positions he had wanted. He had learned to tune them out while maintaining the appearance of being engaged with his work. The art of invisible disappointment, perfected through years of practice and necessity. At lunch, Michael sat alone in the company break room, eating a turkey sandwich he had packed from home while scrolling through job listings on his phone. It had become a ritual over the past year, these lunch-hour browsing sessions where he looked for opportunities at other companies. The problem was complex and multifaceted. Most positions either paid significantly less than what he currently earned or required him to start over at an entry level in a new industry. At 42, with a mortgage on a 4-bedroom house in a good school district and 2 teenage children with college aspirations, starting over felt like a luxury he couldn't afford. His daughter Sophie was a junior in high school, already talking about college applications and campus visits. She had her heart set on studying pre-med at Northwestern, a dream that would require significant financial support. His son, Marcus, was a freshman, showing promise in both academics and basketball, with coaches already mentioning potential scholarship opportunities if he continued developing his skills. Michael's wife, Lisa, worked part-time as a freelance graphic designer, but her income was irregular and project-dependent, never enough to carry the family if Michael lost his steady paycheck. They had discussed her returning to full-time work, but the health insurance through Sterling Financial was too valuable to risk. The golden handcuffs, Lisa called it. The salary and benefits at Sterling Financial were too good to walk away from, even if the promotional opportunities seemed to exist for everyone except Michael. They were trapped in a comfortable prison of middle-class expectations and financial responsibilities. "Mind if I sit?" Michael looked up to see Janet Williams, one of the senior administrative assistants, standing with her lunch tray. Janet was in her 50s, had been with the company for 15 years, and had a reputation for being both discreet and perceptive about office dynamics. "Of course," Michael said, closing his phone and sliding it into his pocket. Janet settled across from him and opened her salad container. They ate in companionable silence for a few minutes before she spoke. "I heard about the promotion announcement," Janet said quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. Michael nodded, not trusting himself to speak without revealing the full extent of his frustration. "For what it's worth," Janet continued, glancing around to ensure they weren't being overheard, "everyone in admin thinks you should have gotten that job. We see the client feedback that comes through. We process your sales reports. We know who really drives results around here." It was kind of her to say, but Michael had learned that being acknowledged by support staff, while meaningful, didn't translate into advancement opportunities. "I appreciate that, Janet. Really." "Have you thought about looking elsewhere?" she asked, echoing the question Michael had been asking himself daily for the past 6 months. "I've looked. The market isn't great for someone at my level wanting to make a lateral move. Most opportunities would mean taking a step back or a significant pay cut." Janet nodded knowingly, her expression reflecting years of observing similar patterns. "That's the catch, isn't it? They keep you comfortable enough that leaving feels risky, but not valued enough that staying feels rewarding." She had articulated something Michael had been feeling, but hadn't been able to put into words. The company had created the perfect trap: good enough benefits and salary to make leaving difficult, but a culture that ensured certain employees would never advance beyond a certain level. After lunch, Michael returned to his desk to find a meeting request from Patricia Coleman waiting in his inbox. The subject line read, "Follow-up conversation." He accepted the meeting, scheduled for 4 p.m., and spent the afternoon trying to focus on his work while mentally preparing for another session of vague explanations and empty encouragements. At exactly 4 p.m., Michael knocked on Patricia's office door. "Come in, Michael. Please have a seat." Patricia's office was decorated with motivational posters about teamwork and excellence, along with numerous awards the sales division had won over the years. Michael had contributed significantly to many of those wins, though his individual contributions were rarely highlighted in company communications. "I wanted to follow up with you about the regional manager position," Patricia began, her tone carefully professional. "I know this is the third time you've applied for a promotion, and I want to make sure we're having an open conversation about your career development." Michael had prepared for this conversation during his lunch break, but sitting in the familiar chair across from Patricia's desk, he found himself feeling unexpectedly calm. The disappointment was still there, but it was wrapped in something else now, a kind of resigned understanding. "Your performance continues to be exceptional," Patricia continued, consulting a folder that Michael assumed contained his personnel file. "The decision to promote Brad came down to his potential for growth and his fresh perspective on some of our newer market segments. We feel he can bring innovative approaches to the regional strategy." "What specific innovative approaches?" Michael asked, surprising himself with the directness of the question. Patricia paused, clearly not expecting to need to provide concrete examples. She shuffled through some papers on her desk, buying time. "Well, he's shown interest in digital marketing integration and has some ideas about expanding our social media presence." Michael almost laughed. He had submitted a detailed proposal about digital marketing integration 8 months ago, complete with budget projections and implementation timelines. It was still sitting in Patricia's inbox, as far as he knew, marked as under review. "I see," Michael said simply, not bothering to mention his own proposal. "I want to assure you that your time will come," Patricia continued, her voice taking on the tone of someone delivering a well-practiced speech. "We just need to find the right fit for your skill set." "Patricia," Michael said, and something in his tone must have caught her attention because she looked at him more directly. "Can I ask you something honestly? Do you think I will ever be promoted here?" The question hung in the air between them like smoke from a fire neither of them wanted to acknowledge. Patricia's carefully maintained professional expression flickered for just a moment, and in that flicker Michael saw his answer. It wasn't malicious or intentionally cruel, it was something worse. It was pity mixed with helplessness. "Michael, I can't predict the future, but I can tell you that we value your contributions and want to see you succeed." It wasn't a yes. It wasn't even close to a yes. Michael nodded slowly, feeling a strange sense of relief wash over him. "I understand. Thank you for your time, Patricia." She seemed surprised by the brevity of the conversation, perhaps expecting him to argue or ask for specific feedback about improvement areas. "Michael, please don't hesitate to reach out if you want to discuss your career path further. We're committed to helping you achieve your goals." "I appreciate that," Michael said, though they both knew he wouldn't be scheduling any more career development conversations. Back at his desk, Michael opened his laptop and stared at the email announcing Brad's promotion. He realized he was no longer angry about it. Anger required hope, required a belief that things should be different. What he felt now was something closer to acceptance. His phone buzzed with a text from Lisa. "How did the promotion announcement go?" Michael stared at the message for a long moment before typing back, "Brad got it." 3 dots appeared immediately as Lisa typed her response. "I'm so sorry, honey. Are you okay?" Michael considered how to answer that question. Was he okay? In the conventional sense, no. He had been passed over for a promotion he deserved, again. But in another sense, maybe he was okay. He still had a job that paid well enough to support his family. He still had benefits and colleagues who respected his work. "I'm okay," he texted back. "We'll talk tonight." As the afternoon wore on, Michael found himself observing the office dynamics with new eyes. He watched Brad Peterson fielding congratulations and already talking about his vision for the regional team. He thought about Janet Williams's lunch conversation. Sterling Financial had created a system where certain employees could be kept comfortable but never truly rewarded. At 5:30 p.m., Michael began shutting down his workstation for the day. As he walked to his car in the parking garage, he pulled out his phone and opened his email. He scrolled to the draft folder and found the message he had been working on for weeks but never sent. It was addressed to a former colleague who had left Sterling Financial 2 years ago to start his own consulting firm. "Hi, David," the draft read. "I hope you're doing well. I've been thinking about our conversation from last year about opportunities in independent consulting. Would you be open to having coffee sometime to discuss what that might look like?" Michael stared at the message for a long moment. Sending it would represent a shift from hoping things would change at Sterling Financial to accepting that they wouldn't. He pressed send before he could talk himself out of it. The drive home took 25 minutes through suburban traffic. Michael used the time to mentally transition from work disappointment to family responsibilities, a psychological shift that had become increasingly difficult as the gap between his professional aspirations and reality had widened. When Michael arrived home, the familiar sounds of family life greeted him. Sophie was at the kitchen table surrounded by chemistry textbooks and notes. Marcus was sprawled on the living room floor, allegedly doing homework while simultaneously watching television. "How was the day?" Lisa asked, giving Michael a quick kiss as he entered the kitchen. "It was a day," Michael replied, loosening his tie. "How's the chemistry studying going, Soph?" Sophie looked up from her periodic table with a frustrated expression. "I hate molecular bonding. None of this makes sense." "Want some help after dinner?" Michael offered. "Would you?" "You're so much better at explaining this stuff than Mom." Lisa laughed. Thanks for that ringing endorsement of my scientific knowledge. Over dinner, Sophie talked about junior prom plans, still months away but apparently requiring extensive advance planning. Marcus described a basketball drill that was giving him trouble and asked Michael to help him practice in the driveway after homework. Lisa shared news about a potential new client for her graphic design business. None of them asked about the promotion, though Michael suspected Lisa had texted the kids to warn them not to bring it up. It was the kind of thoughtful gesture that reminded Michael why he had chosen to build a life with her. After the kids had gone to bed, Michael and Lisa sat on their back porch with glasses of wine, watching the sun set behind their neighbors' trees. "So," Lisa said gently, "do you want to talk about it?" Michael had been expecting this conversation all evening. "I sent an email to David Harrison today," he said instead of directly answering. David was the former colleague who had started his own consulting business. About joining his firm. About exploring options. "I don't know if it will lead anywhere, but I think it's time to seriously consider alternatives." Lisa nodded slowly. "How do you feel about that?" "Relieved, I think. For the first time in 2 years, I'm not hoping for something that probably isn't going to happen." They sat in comfortable silence for a few minutes, each lost in their own thoughts about what this potential change might mean. "I'm proud of you," Lisa said finally, "for getting passed over for another promotion. For knowing when to stop banging your head against a wall, for being willing to consider other options, for choosing your family's stability over your ego." Michael considered this. Maybe continuing to pursue promotions at Sterling Financial had become more about proving something to himself than about actual career advancement. "I just want to make sure I'm making the right choice, that I'm not giving up too easily." Lisa reached over and took his hand. "Honey, you've been at that company for 8 years. You've been a top performer every single year. If they were going to promote you, they would have done it by now." It was a hard truth, but Lisa was right. What if David's firm doesn't work out? What if I can't find something else that pays as well? "Then we'll figure it out," Lisa said simply. "We always do. But what if it does work out? What if you end up somewhere that actually values what you bring to the table?" That night, as Michael lay in bed listening to Lisa's steady breathing beside him, his phone buzzed with a notification. An email from David Harrison, responding to Michael's message with enthusiasm and an invitation to lunch the following week. Michael smiled in the darkness. Maybe it was time to stop trying to change a system that didn't want to change and start finding a system where he could actually succeed. The third promotion denial at Sterling Financial had taught him something valuable. Sometimes accepting defeat in one arena is actually victory in another. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is stop fighting a battle you're not meant to win. Tomorrow, Michael would go back to his desk at Sterling Financial. He would congratulate Brad Peterson again if necessary. He would maintain his professionalism and continue delivering excellent work. But he would do it knowing that his future lay somewhere else, with people who would see his talent instead of finding reasons to overlook it. For the first time in 2 years, Michael Thompson fell asleep feeling like he was moving forward instead of running in place.